expected points, clean sheet odds, and who is the best captain. This video has got all of the information you need to know ahead of game week 28. All right, we're going to go through all of the positions and all of the top players for expected points. And all of this data is courtesy of Fantasy Football Hub. And if you want to see this data for yourself, you can sign up to Fantasy Football Hub using the link in the description below. So what we've got here, first position is goalkeepers. And we've got the top goalkeepers for expected points for Game Week 28 in isolation, right? Top goalkeeper going into Game Week 28 is Alisson. I mean, he's got Southampton at home. Probably the best fixture you could possibly ask for right now. It's the best team in the country versus the worst team in the country. So no surprise to see him top of the list. Second place is Jorgensen, the new starting Chelsea goalkeeper. He's obviously not the new Chelsea goalkeeper, but he has replaced Sanchez as their number one. He's got Leicester at home. So, you know, those top two are probably the two best fixtures. Raya with Man United away is third. You know, I'd suggest Man United away, certainly for Arsenal defensively, given how Man United are from an attacking perspective at the moment. I'd say that's a pretty good fixture, good chance for clean sheet. Jose Sarr's up there, he's got Everton at home. Verbruggen's got Fulham at home. Dean Henderson's got Ipswich at home. And Pickford's got Wolves away. And these are your top keepers for 28 in isolation. So I always say this on my Ultimate Guide videos, but if you're looking to make a transfer in FPL, you're probably doing so, well, you should do so, thinking more than one game week ahead of time, right? We saw Alisson as the top goalkeeper for Game Week 28, which is great, but he does blank in Game Week 29, so he doesn't have a fixture. And he doesn't, well, he does actually appear as bottom of this list of top keepers. But there are obviously keepers higher than him for expected points over the next 5, because some have 5 fixtures compared to Alisson's, well, 4. So Raya is number 1, Edison number 2, Sells number 3. What I quite like about Sells is come blank Game Week 29, he's got a really good fixture in Ipswich. Jorgensen, Kepa, obviously the starting keeper now for Bournemouth, and Pickford. So those, and obviously Alisson. Alisson is 7th on this list. So he's still one of, well, the top half of goalkeepers. Obviously there's only 20 starting goalkeepers in the game. So he's still amongst the top, even though he's only got 4 fixtures. But yeah, number 1 is Raya, number 2 is Edison, number 3 is Sells. Let me know in the comments who your goalkeeper is and if you're looking to change them. All right, so we've got defenders now. Again, this is just for Game Week 28 in isolation. These are the top defenders. Trent, like I said with Alisson, you know, Liverpool have the best fixture you could possibly ask for in Southampton at home, and Trent is the best Liverpool defender, at least from an FPL perspective in terms of points potential. So it's obviously no real surprise to see him as number 1 there. The only thing I would say is with that game being possibly against the worst Premier League team in history, could there be some Liverpool rotation? And if there is, I would suspect that Trent could be benched for someone like Bradley. I've heard Bradley might have an injury issue at the moment, so question marks obviously to whether he'll be fit for Game Week 28 to replace Trent. But, you know, there's football to happen. FA Cup, they're still in the FA Cup, of course. Yeah, I just feel like there's a risk that Trent could potentially get benched against Southampton. Is that going to stop me from starting him, though? Absolutely not. I just think there's an inherent risk there, given it's such a good fixture. Munoz, who basically plays as a right winger for Crystal Palace with Ipswich at home. Owners of Munoz would have been, well, I can remember when everyone kind of hopped on Munoz sort of game week, 18, 19 time, just when they saw the fixtures coming good and how attacking he has been. And once I think he had to serve a suspension, didn't he, for 5 yellow cards. Initially, they got quite unlucky. He was points dodging to a massive degree, but he stopped doing that in recent games. Palace, I think, what was it, 2 back-to-back clean sheets now? I think something like that. 2 back-to-back hauls, however it looks for Munoz. And he's got Ipswich at home. Good fixture. Virgil, Van Dijk, obviously, and Canate up there as well, both with Southampton. Cucurella came away with a haul, obviously, against Southampton, and then he's got Leicester in his next fixture. So he looks a pretty good buy for Chelsea, to be honest. Gahey, another Crystal Palace defender, of course, playing Ipswich. And Gabriel, he's still up there. You know, the fixture's Man United. I think I'd probably put him a little bit higher on this list, just considering his goal threat from corners, how bad Man United have been at defending set pieces this season, and also how toothless they are in attack. You know, there's a chance, I think, of a decent chance of an Arsenal clean sheet, and also not just an Arsenal clean sheet, but a Gabriel goal from a set piece as well. So these are your top defenders for 28. So over the next 5 game weeks, it looks like this. Gabriel, number 1. Guardiola as number 2. And Trent as number 3. So Trent is still the 3rd best defender in the game over the next 5 weeks, despite missing out entirely on 1 game week. You got Saliba up there as well. Obviously, Gabriel's better than Saliba for expected points with his, higher goal threat, I'd say, from set pieces. They're both probably going to play as many games as each other and obviously keep the same amount of clean sheets they play together. Munoz is up there, only 4.9 million. He's the, 5th best defender in the game over the next 5 weeks for expected points. You see Timber there as well in 8 Nori. One thing about looking at top defenders for the next 5 is usually it's dominated by premium defenders, although there were 2 cheaper defenders on that list, to be fair, in Munoz and 8 Nori. Both of these guys look pretty good for the next 5, although, albeit Munoz obviously blanks in game week 29. 8 Nori. Wolves have got probably the best fixture run of any team to the end of the season. And then obviously not that good defensively, but we all know how good 8 Nori was from an attacking perspective, at least earlier on in the season. And I do think Wolves, particularly in the very easy games, they've got a chance of keeping some clean sheets there. Howson of Bournemouth, he's actually higher than Kirkes for expected points. Kirkes probably offers more creativity, the fact that he's, a bombing forward fullback. But Howson actually offers quite a lot of goal threat from set pieces. You've got Lewis Hall there, and it's obviously the same reason as Munoz. I know he blanks in game week 29, but he doubles in game week 32, so he still has 5 fixtures over the next 5. It's obviously just condensed into 1 game week at the end there. Milenkovic of Forest. We all said how good Forest are defensively. I've said many times how good Forest are defensively, and I'd say he's still probably the best Forest defender, just with the goal threat he carries from set pieces. Spoke about Kirkes, and Estupinian is up there as well at 4.9. On to the midfield then, and I don't think anyone's going to be surprised to see Salah top of the list. Southampton at home for him. Obviously outscored Palmer in game week 27, quite controversially I'd say. Big captaincy decision between Salah and Palmer for game week 27. Obviously Palmer with Southampton at home, Salah with Newcastle at home. A lot of people went for captain Palmer, and I can't really argue with it. I went for Salah, but I mean, captaining Palmer against possibly the worst Premier League team in history at home, I can't tell anyone that was a bad decision. But I think game week 28 captaincy is probably quite easy, isn't it? I mean, Salah's got probably the worst team in the Premier League history at home. Palmer's got Leicester, who are obviously pretty woeful as well. But, come on. Salah's in form and he's got the better fixture. I think the decision's quite easy. And Nkunku getting some good minutes for Chelsea. Likewise, who isn't on this list, Pedro Neto's also getting some good minutes for Chelsea with their good fixtures. The Southampton fixture is so good that we're seeing players like Szoboszlai and Luis Diaz amongst the top midfielders for expected points. I'm not saying these guys are terrible FPL options, but you never really see them amongst the top midfielders. Then you got Mbumo and Ismail Assar obviously coming off the back of a really good game in game week 27. Just trying to remember what game week it is. For the next 5 game weeks then, you've got Palmer as the number 1 midfielder. That's obviously because he's got 5 fixtures over the next 5 weeks. Salah's only got 4. Dango is right up there for expected points still. And I'd say if he plays, certainly as that centre forward spot, he's probably, at least from open play, the best Bournemouth midfielder. But we've seen recently with Evanilson coming back from injury and with Zabarnyi's red card, he's kind of been the one sacrificed. So he's played at left wing back when Zabarnyi got sent off, and he was subbed early for Evanilson in game week 27 as well. So, I think of the 3 Bournemouth midfielders, Kluivert, Semenyo, Dango, I still think Kluivert's the best, even though he doesn't appear on this list with the fact he's on penalties. Semenyo's probably second now, and Dango's in third, just because I'd be a little bit worried about his minutes. Phil Foden, looking at game week 29 in particular, could be a nice differential. Just spoken about Semenyo. Not sure I'd want to go for any Arsenal attackers at the moment, but Odegaard is amongst the top midfielders for the next 5. Interestingly, there's no Bruno Fernandes either, who's in really good form at the moment. I would probably put Bruno in there instead of Odegaard. And then Mbumo is also on this list as a top midfielder, of course, for the next 5. What I've done here, a lot of those players are of the more premium price point. So what we've got here is a view of the best cheap midfielders. Guess it's no real surprise to see the 2 Bournemouth mids up there, considering they were on the last list. Minter of Brighton up there. Ismail Assar, who's obviously did quite well in game week 27. Jacob Murphy, who unfortunately blanks in game week 29, as does Ismail Assar, but they both double in game week 32. Enzo Fernandez, who got incredibly unlucky not to get a return in game week 27, so maybe he could get something in game week 28. I think if you've got Enzo Fernandez, I would keep him in and hang your, well, not hang your hat on him getting a return, but you'd want a return, I think, against Leicester based on how he performed against Southampton. And then Charlotte of Brentford up there as well. On to the forwards then, and Jean-Philippe Mateta is the top forward for expected points in game week 28. 6.4 compared to Haaland on 6.2. Obviously, the fixture for Mateta way better than Haaland's fixture. He's got Nottingham Forest away. Cunha with Everton at home. Gakpo, he's up there with Southampton at home. You know, coming back from injury, will Arne Slot risk Gakpo ahead of Southampton at home? I don't know. I think there's a chance that he gets benched for that one. Chris Wood, wouldn't surprise me at all to see him score against Man City with how poor they've been defensively of recent. Isak, if he's fit. Will we get any info from Eddie Howe? I don't know. I mean, we've got a week and a half probably when this video comes out, just over a week until the game week deadline. So a week, obviously, for Isak to recover from whatever mystery injury he's got. We also might get some info on it, I guess, over the weekend because Newcastle, I believe, are still in the FA Cup. And yeah, we'll wait and see what happens in game week 28. I certainly wouldn't be looking to sell him. I think his expected points are... The injury is factored into those expected points. I think if he was 100% fit, he'd probably be the top forward. And then Wissa as well. He's in really good form in recent games, alongside, of course, Mbeumo. They've got Villa at home, and I don't think Villa are a good defence by any stretch of the imagination. So I agree with those expected points. For the next 5 game weeks then, we've got Haaland as the number 1 for expected points. And this brings up an interesting topic because I think the 3 best captains for game week 29 are on this list. You got Haaland, you got Cunha, and you've got Chris Wood. I think Cunha's got Southampton away. Chris Wood's playing Ipswich. Haaland's playing Brighton. So yeah, I think those are the 3, in my opinion, the 3 best captaincy options for next week. And I think given it's a blank game week, you probably want to do all you can to make sure you really have at least one of those in your team for next week. It's going to be really hard for me to get Haaland in myself. I do like him as an option. I think he could be a good captain, particularly looking at Game Week 30 fixture with Leicester as well. I think that says Leicester. Yeah, it does. Had to put my eyes a bit close to the screen then. So yeah, let me know, in fact, in the comments who you're planning to captain in Game Week 29, because I think that's quite an important decision to make. Isak's up there as well. 14.4 expected points in Game Week 32. He's probably going to be fit and ready to go then, isn't he? And is that Man United and Crystal Palace both at home in a double game week? Sorry, I have to keep having to move close to the camera to read the little letters there. So it's looking like Isak, you're going to want him back in your team for game week 32. Cunha's up there. He's in great form, obviously. Mateta, Chris Wood, Wissa, and Solanke, should he be back, are your top forwards for the next 5. All right, clean sheet odds then, in no particular order, but this is for game week 28. I usually say start defenders with above 30% clean sheet odds. So we've got Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, Palace, Wolves, Brighton, and I'd give it to Everton as well on 29. Any teams kind of below 30%, I'd be... Any teams not ones that I've mentioned, basically, I'd be hesitant starting defenders from. And yeah, that's a view of clean sheets. And I think the top 3, top 4, Liverpool, Chelsea, Crystal Palace, and Arsenal. Finally, captaincy. You can spend on weeks, certainly last week you could, a long time debating the captaincy. But this week, Salah with Southampton at home, Palmer with Leicester at home. I'm not sure there really is a debate, is there? For me, the captaincy is firmly on Salah. And with him facing probably the worst team in Premier League history at home, I don't think this is the week at all. Even if you're chasing, I do not think this is the week to go different. I think next week, when Salah is out of action, I think that is possibly a week where you could go differential and really, challenge the leaderboard with your captain. But this week, not for me. Although, if you're looking to go differential, let me know in the comments. All right, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. If you did, please leave me a like rating. I asked you to leave me lots of comments about various different things, so please do. Let me know in the comments who your captain's going to be, etc. And if you enjoyed the video and want to see more FPL content from me, there'll be plenty more coming at you before the Game Week 28 deadline and, of course, for the rest of the season. The channel's growth has been insane recently, and I'm very grateful for it. If you could help me continue, I'd be very grateful. Subscribing to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just there on your screen. I had to rise up then so I fit into the screen. All right, that's everything. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in my next video.